Is the Canadian real estate market going to crash in 2022? Today I want to talk to you guys about the 5 things that you can do as a real estate investor to hedge against the market crashing and come out on top. Now before we get into it, I just want to remind everyone that if any of you have any real estate related questions in Ontario, I'll be happy to connect with you and talk about it because we love talking about anything real estate. We're going to leave some information about us in the description below. But for now, let's talk about the Canadian real estate market. So the short answer to if the Canadian real estate market is going to crash is yes, it probably is going to crash, but it's not really a matter of if it's going to crash, it's more a matter of when it's going to crash. And as we discussed in previous videos, we really shouldn't be dancing around the topic of are you able to time the market, because you really just have to play the game. Now, for those of us following the real estate market, we've been seeing house prices soaring and we're wondering when they're going to stop. We're seeing all kinds of things happening, like the government's printing a lot more money, immigration is still rising, houses aren't being produced quickly enough, and we're wondering how this is actually going to affect the real estate market. When there is a correction, which there will be, the prices of houses will definitely drop, but what does dropping mean? So basically, since last year, we've seen that there has been quite a drastic increase, but when you're seeing all these headlines talking about how real estate is plummeting and prices are dropping, it's all relative to the peak, which was in February, where we're seeing average house prices going for over $1 million. Now is coming down to a little bit of a more reasonable price, but we're still up from last year. So really, it's a relative drop. Where this might become a problem is for people who bought into properties with crazy speculations as to what's going to happen to the market, thinking that it can only go up, and they didn't balance out with other things such as rental capacities, enough cash and reserves, and they also didn't take into consideration an exit strategy, because who is going to buy this property? And where this actually becomes a problem is when banks or lenders start to realize that they have a higher loan to value on these properties than the market actually commands. So for example, if you bought a $1 million property and you have an $800,000 loan on it, and then the property all of a sudden drops down to $850,000 or $900,000, which would be pretty significant, the banks are only willing to offer you 80% loan to value, or in some cases 75% loan to value. So that correction might make it such that you as an investor have to fork out more money onto that property to balance out that equation. So you really have to watch out for where you are right now. But now let's talk about what you can do as a real estate investor to hedge against these potential problems. Now the first point I want to fall back on is that cash is king. So it is always a good idea in a time of uncertainty to keep a little bit of cash. Now I know a lot of people will argue as to whether or not it's a good idea to keep cash during times of high inflation, and the truth is that you kind of want to do a little bit of both. At least that's what I'm doing. Just like with anything else, you want to be able to buy the dip if the dip does come. You don't want to be left fully in. Diversify a little bit is not a bad idea. And if you're not really sure how to diversify against the dip and you have in on a real estate portfolio, it's not a bad idea to pad down those mortgages a little bit. A pretty safe margin to keep is about 60% loan to value on your existing portfolio if you have some excess cash that you want to pad down those mortgages. At least then if the market does go down and you find yourself refinancing, you're not found in the red. The second thing I advise to do is to keep yourself in a healthy loan to value. And basically what I'm talking about is making it such that you're not overextending yourself doing these crazy mortgages where you're putting 90% loan to value and only 10% down. And then if the market dips a little bit, whoever it is that's lending you money is going to come asking. Try to avoid that. Leave a little bit of cushion unless you have absolutely budgeted for it. But for most people buying, keep a healthy loan to value, as this will protect you. Now, the third thing that you can do to hedge against a market crash is to buy properties that have diverse applications. And what I mean by that is you're going to buy properties that you can do different things with. You can either rent them out, you can improve them in value, you can move into them if you had to. It's just you want to buy stuff that has capacity to weather a storm. For example, one of my clients went and bought himself a fourplex. And the fourplex, if you're in Ontario, you can buy this still with residential financing. And in some cases, it's actually easier to buy a 4-unit property, legal 4-unit property, than it is to buy a single family home, because the banks will consider that income from the rental property alongside your own to add to your buying power. And then on top of that, if for whatever reason the market does go down, it will actually put more people into the rental market, which is going to increase rental prices, which is going to make your position even stronger as a landlord. Now, the fourth thing I want to talk about here is the location. Now, a lot of people, with the frenzy that was happening in January and February, were buying properties anywhere. Anywhere you could find a property, people were buying for various reasons. It had nothing to do with location. A lot of the times, people were buying for the nice quartz countertops, they're buying for the nice backyard, they were buying for the newly renovated bathrooms, and these are things that don't necessarily hold true value. But what does hold true value is proper location. So one of the things that has to do with location is desirability, and what you always want to aim for in order to be safe is the middle class, the working people. Where will they buy? Because that is going to be the majority population, and that will be the population that is keeping the market up to a certain level. So whatever that might be. So if you're buying in a city, where do people want to move into? Cities and suburbias, right? And that's going to be generally safe. But for people who are buying properties out in the country, and not even like big land properties. We're just talking about properties that were just renovated nicely and somebody went out there and bought it for an arm and a leg. There's nothing out there drawing the masses to it. So those will be probably early properties to suffer. So if you have a property like that, be careful with it and make sure that you can weather it somehow, either by having it as a rental or whatever it is that you can do. And the fifth thing that I want to talk about is actually mortgages. Now that was a big topic recently because, with Canadian interest rates rising, people have been wondering what type of mortgages you should get. Should I be doing variable or should I be doing fixed mortgages? And you really want to diversify a little as to how you're going to go about this. Fixed can definitely get you through a long haul if that's what you're budgeting to do. And on primary residences, that might not be a bad idea. If you're buying a $1 million property and you're looking to do a variable mortgage and you haven't budgeted properly for it, that variable mortgage can make you lose your shirt. I don't necessarily recommend it if it's not part of your business plan. However, when you're buying cheaper properties like $500,000, the variable increase might not affect you that much. And the other thing you can do is looking into that is to see if you do have variable mortgages, whether or not these increases are going to keep your payments the same but have more of the payment go towards your interest, or is your overall payment going to go up? So you should call your mortgage provider and find out what type of variable mortgage you have, as this will go into play as to your financial planning. So let's recap this really quickly. If you want to hedge against a market crash in Canada, what you should be doing is having some decent cash reserves. You want to be having a healthy loan to value on the properties that you do purchase or that you do have. You want to be purchasing properties that have diverse applications such that they offer you versatility in the event of a crash. And then you want to be buying on location versus on the quality of the property, the superficial qualities of the property that you can do anywhere. So location will matter most. And then finally, picking the right mortgage type that will allow you to go through the next few years and keep on the real estate game until everything stabilizes. Because that's the name of the game. You want to basically get over this time of uncertainty, because if you falter during this time, that is when you lose. But if you ride this all through, you're gonna be in really great shape after this is all done. So there you have it, guys. I hope you found this information to be helpful and informative. And remember, if you have any questions about how to proceed with your real estate investing journey, make sure to reach out to us, because like I said before, we are happy to help and we want to hear from you. As always, comment below with any questions, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you on the next one.